system. Activating combat mode.
Alright. What's going on, guys? Eternal went back, and wow, yeah, I know. I'm extremely late on covering Armored Core 6. Life outside of the YouTubes has just been extremely busy here recently. But if you've been following the community posts, you'll pretty much know why. But the last community poll that I did was asking for the very first build that you guys wanted to see featured, and the melee build, or a melee build, was voted. So that's what I have for you today. I know I'm late, but I still wanted to deliver on what I promised. So for this build, it's going to be specifically built around the laser lance. I'm sure you guys know what that is by now. Also, most of my gear is either New Game Plus or New Game Plus Plus gear. But again, with this build coming out as late as it is, you probably have all this shit already. But let's go ahead and cover it. So we're using the Werger shotgun over the Zimmerman just because I'm only using one, and I like to have additional pressure being applied to the opponent. Being able to shoot this much faster than a Zimmerman. Obviously it doesn't do nearly as much impact damage, but that's why we're running the Huxley on our right shoulder. But we'll get to that in a second. The reason I like the Werger shotgun for this is because sometimes you will be a little far away once an enemy has been staggered through the laser lance, that you won't have enough time to dash over to them, switch to your pile bunker, which is also on the build, and then obliterate them. So whenever I use the laser lance, I will go ahead and charge my Werger just in case, depending on the type of enemy that I'm fighting, because if they're too far away and they recover from stagger too fast, I can just nuke them with a charge shot from the Werger. So that's why we're running this. Again, this particular build is designed around the laser lance, which is just phenomenal. Really fun to use. It does really good damage, really good stagger damage. Don't be afraid to use this if the enemy is already staggered. I know a lot of people use this to approach an enemy to stagger them, but it works both ways. Great damage and great stagger either way. To increase the build stagger, we're running the Huxley. Again, with the fact that we're not using Zims on this build, I really like the Huxley because it has a really decent amount of impact damage, which when mixed with the pressure from the Werger shotgun can just stagger them really quickly. And then to finalize the weapon for this build, we're using the Ashmead pile bunker just because this thing is just absolutely ridiculous. It does so much damage, and it works really well with the laser lance. The only issue that I find sometimes is that I'm a little too far away, but if they are going to be staggered long enough for me to dash in, switch to the pile bunker mid-dash, and then obliterate them, then obviously this is the route I'm going to take over the charge shot from the Werger. As far as the frame is concerned, the Varel is just such a phenomenally well-rounded head. I use it on almost every one of my builds. Sometimes I'll use the Shade Eye, and even the Howl piece, but the Varel, it's a great choice here. Another great choice is obviously going to be the Howl 826. You get this from beating Walter in New Game Plus. This combined with the legs, I pretty much always run those two pieces. The only time it changes is if I'm jumping around like a maniac with the spring chicken legs, or not running a melee build in which I will switch out the arms. But speaking of the arms, the Basho, whatever you want to call them, these things are fantastic because of their melee specialization. This is pretty much going to give you close to 29% increased melee damage from what I've seen. If you're running a melee build, you want to run Basho. It's just what you do. Again, as far as the legs are concerned, I pretty much always run the Howl once I've unlocked them, unless I'm running a spring chicken type version of a build, but it just works really well for pretty much every situation. Again, the Howl series is just You can't go wrong. Plus, they look badass. God, they look badass. Easily the best looking legs in the game, I think. But the most important piece on this build, since we're running a laser lance, is probably going to be the booster. You don't really want to run the laser lance without the Kikaku. And the reason why is because this maxes out your melee attack thrust, which is pretty much what the laser lance is. If you're not running Kikaku with the laser lance, you're not running a laser lance build. Obviously, other boosters will work with this build, but this just combined with the Basho and the laser lance just makes it extremely powerful and way better. Obviously, I've seen people, running different boosters, but it's not primarily a laser lance build. And again, that's what this is. So we're running Kikaku here, and then as far as our FCS, we're running the Oculus for the maxed out close range assist, and then for our generator, we are running with the Ming Tang. This is pretty much going to allow us to have decent boost speed, quick boost reload time, and quick boost speed. I was running with the Aorta, which I love, but the time in between your energy recovering to be able to dash around and dodge is just way too long. I just really don't like this for a melee build. But I pretty much use Aorta for almost everything else, as well as the NGI. Both are just phenomenal. Coral weapons are just great in this game, but we're going to pretty much finish it off with the assault armor. I mean, if you're putting on the pressure and trying to get in the melee range, it just makes sense. You want to run assault armor. But alright guys, that's going to be the video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to stay up to date on all of my content. I appreciate you coming out, and I'll catch you on the next one. Deuces.